Blade Runner 2049 and Dr. Sleep. Two sequels released nearly 40 years after their originals, with their originals garnering mixed reactions upon release, but becoming classics with the passing of time. Both of these flicks brought on new directors, both received mostly praise from critics and audiences alike, and both failed to make any sort of impact at the box office. So, yeah, they're basically the same movie.
This is Sparta!
Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome to another Cinema Showdown. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video we are going to be pitting Blade Runner 2049 up against Dr. Sleep. Both of these sequels were a long time in the making. Despite both of these films' original flicks being iconic in their respective genres, these two movies were box office bombs, even though they received mostly positive reactions. So, which of these sequels was more worth the wait? Well, without further ado, let's hop right into things. Round 1. Main cast. Both flicks boast extremely talented casts, which were all the perfect choices to take on the lead roles in these modern sequels to some of the most iconic classics in their respective genres. Blade Runner 2049 charges into the fight with lead Ryan Gosling in a supporting cast consisting of Ana de Armas, Robin Wright, and a returning, older and more grizzled Harrison Ford as Deckard once again. You may have noticed no mention of Jared Leto or Sylvia Hoeks, and that's because the villains certainly deserve their own round. Ryan Gosling taking over for Harrison Ford as the main character is pretty intimidating to say the least. Those are some mighty big shoes to fill, but he fills them very nicely, giving us a mostly stoic performance as a replicant Blade Runner with sudden outbursts of raw emotion and humanity, as the story unravels and he realizes there's more to him than what he was made for. Ana de Armas's Joy is a big part of giving that sense of purpose to Gosling's Joe. She plays a holographic AI meant to provide companionship to lonely folks, but ends up going far beyond her programming to provide the audience with a touching romance and a Pinocchio-like arc that will tug on your heartstrings. Robin Wright plays a lesser role in this film, but still manages to give a memorable performance as Gosling's commanding officer. Strong, slightly brooding, but also a dominant force on screen whenever present. And Harrison Ford hops right back into the role of Deckard like he never left it. Despite being 30 years older, he's the exact same character that you remember and love. And even though he gets a lot less screen time than you were probably led to believe, he gives a performance that will go down as just as iconic as the first time he played the role. For Dr. Sleep, Ewan McGregor steps into the life of an aging and substance-addicted Danny Torrance, nearly 40 years after the Overlook Hotel, with support from Cliff Curtis and newcomer Kylie Curran, who arguably shines the brightest. Ewan McGregor is easily one of the best actors working today, and that's on show in full here. He portrays a believable and down-to-earth Danny trying to run away from himself and his past through the bottom of a bottle. But as the movie progresses and we see him go through various time jumps, he really comes into his own and finds his long-lost purpose and a good and honorable use for his shine. Cliff Curtis surprised the hell out of me here. I thought he was going to be a minor character, and instead I ended up caring for him possibly the most. He was so optimistic and charismatic that you couldn't help but become infatuated with his kindness and charm. While Kylie Curran had some really major big league talent starring alongside her, she not only managed to hold her own, but quite possibly surpass some of these massive Hollywood hitters. She goes from both sweet and innocent to bold and courageous, and at times even slightly scary. She's an innocent little girl with a brilliant gift, but when the dark things that lurk in the shadows rear their ugly head at her, she does not back down. This round was a super tough one to start out on, because both of these casts have their merits with hardly any shortcomings. But I think at the end of the day, if I had to choose one, I would go with Blade Runner 2049. It is unbelievably close, but I do find myself just ever so slightly more involved emotionally with these characters' arcs over those found in Dr. Sleep. It is a very slim win, but round 1 is going to go to Blade Runner 2049. Round 2. Villains. is. Both of these flicks come with some truly memorable villains that I believe with the passing of time will eventually become known as some of the best. For Blade Runner 2049, we have Jared Leto as Neander Wallace and Sylvia Hoeks as Love. Now, when I talk about these villains eventually becoming iconic, I actually wasn't referring to Leto. Leto plays a good enough villain in my mind. He's got a lot of power, arguably the most power in this movie's universe. He plays the sort of villain who talks low and slow and uses big words and has a warped ideology. He thinks he is some sort of god, but the issue is he is hardly ever present in the movie. He has such a small amount of screen time for a character that is supposed to be the main villain. The real menacing and ever-present threat is Hoeks' Love. She's brutal and relentless in her pursuit, and when it comes time to throw down, she can absolutely throw down. And when she does, she has the face of a stone-cold killer. For me, she is the real villain, and I believe she's the one that will end up being remembered with the passing of time. As for Dr. Sleep, you have a whole cult of undead shine suckers who go by the name of the True Knot. But for the sake of keeping the video's runtime down, we'll discuss Rebecca Ferguson as Rosie, or Rose the Hat, and Zahn McClarnon as Crow Daddy. These folks are truly terrifying. They kidnap children who shine, torture them to death in order to steal their shine so they can become somewhat immortal. Their motto being, eat well, live long. Ferguson is the ringleader and primary shot caller. She's cunning and extremely smart, and her own ability to shine just makes her even more lethal. She has a way with words and often gets whatever she wants. A truly terrifying force. McClarnon as Crow Daddy also really surprised me in this movie, just like Cliff Curtis did. I found myself really invested in his character. I'm not quite sure if it was his calm and collected demeanor, his cool and slightly eerie voice which always comes out as the same tone, or just the way he goes about his disturbing business. The rest of the cult is mostly forgettable aside from Emily Allen Lind as Snakebite Andy, who is often a real scene stealer and arguably the most dangerous of them all with her abilities. In the end, I found that Leto's performance was solid for the time that he was on screen. But his character could have been so much more, and to me that was a massive missed opportunity. Though Sylvia Hoeks manages to carry the villain mantle all on her own very well. Dr. Sleep, however, has an ever-present dark cloud looming over our heroes, with some undeniably memorable performances from Ferguson, McClarnon, and Lind as well, that I am certain will be talked about for quite some time. Therefore, round 2 is going to go to Dr. Sleep. Round 3. Plot. Both of these flicks went very big and bold with their sequel ideas, trying to both pay respect to the legacy of the original but also have its own unique story. For Blade Runner 2049, we follow Gosling's K, or Joe, a replicant Blade Runner tasked with tracking down a child who is believed to have been conceived through a replicant-human relationship, something that was thought to be impossible. Throughout his investigation, he finds his own sense of purpose, something he feels might be love, runs into a familiar face, and is hunted by the powerful Wallace Corporation. The journey is packed with emotion, action, and a great sense of mystery and wonder. Dr. Sleep follows a middle-aged Danny Torrance, 40 years after the Overlook Hotel, who is currently battling drug and alcohol addiction in order to suppress his shine. After meeting a stranger who gives him a chance at a better life, he manages to pick himself back up and finds a good use for his gifts. Life seems to be going well until he discovers that a cult who seeks immortality through consuming the shine of children are after a young friend of Danny's. He must decide if they should run or take a stand. Both of these films have some of the best storytelling from the past decade, finding that perfect blend between paying homage and the utmost respect to their originals, but also expanding on the story, the characters, and the world. But I felt that Dr. Sleep's story kept me on the edge of my seat that much more, with a plethora of twists and turns to always keep you guessing, diving deeper into the lore of The Shine, and an intense game of cat and mouse with some genuinely disturbing and shocking moments. Therefore, round 3 is going to go to Dr. Sleep. Round 4. Which one is a more worthy sequel? So which one did the best in honoring the original while also expanding on what was already established? Blade Runner 2049 goes a long way with world building here. We jump 40 years into the future from the original and a lot has changed. Civil war ravages the land and food shortages lead to famine which wipes out millions. But wealthy businessman Neander Wallace finds a way to end food shortages and in doing so gathers the funds to purchase the remaining assets of the Tyrell Corporation, one with which he creates newer and far more advanced replicants, like our main character who is a replicant created to be a Blade Runner. On top of this, the main mystery and driving force of the movie is the fact that somehow Deckard and Rachel managed to have a baby. Meanwhile, the remaining older models of replicants are banding together to form a rebellion. This movie found the perfect way to continue what was set up in the ending of the original, but also finds a way to carve its own path. I must start off by saying that I haven't read The Shining or Dr. Sleep novels, so I'm basing this off of the movies alone. Dr. Sleep plays it a little more on the original side. The Overlook Hotel is present for the final act, and we get some throwbacks there, but for the most part, this is a new story. Danny fights his way back from alcoholism and drug addiction, and in turn, finds a way to come to terms with his gifts and use them for good. He soon discovers he has a young friend with a very powerful form of shine similar to his own, and they become these sort of shine pen pals. Meanwhile, lurking in the shadows, you have this cult known as the True Knot, who kidnap young children who shine and brutally murder them and steal their shine in order to maintain their immortality. As I stated earlier, they soon turn their attention towards Abra and she goes to Danny for help. And that's where the story really kicks off. The movie does good on keeping connected to the original, and we get some really awesome fan service in the final act, which ties the two together very nicely. Dr. Sleep really tries to walk on its own while still maintaining the fact that it is indeed a sequel. Blade Runner 2049's story stems directly from the events of the original. I feel as though 2049 maintained a closer connection to the original. And while I think both did a magnificent job at trying to create a legacy for themselves, I think as a sequel, Blade Runner 2049 does a better job. Therefore, round 4 is going to go to Blade Runner 2049. Whoa there, could I get your attention for just one quick second? If you're enjoying the video, don't get stuck in the 86.7% who are currently watching and not subscribe to my channel. Be sure to go and hit that subscribe button right now for more content just like this. And while you're at it, don't forget to ring that little bell icon, that way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And now, on to the final round. Final round. Which will be the next classic? Now I want to find out which one do I think is going to end up being remembered as fondly as their originals years down the road. Blade Runner 2049 really went for a bold new take. Director Denis Villeneuve has quickly become a household name over the past few years and is most known for his darker and more in-depth and thought-provoking films, and this is no different. The original Blade Runner had received a very mixed reception when it first released for similar reasons. It challenged its viewers and gave them a weird and wonderful world to explore. 2049 went even bigger than that, and dove deeper into what it means to be human, what gives someone or something purpose, what love is, and so much more. You'll still be discovering new things and creating new theories with every rewatch. On top of that, it is easily one of the most visually stunning movies I have ever laid my eyes on in both terms of cinematography and visual effects. One of my favorite film scores of all time and some truly memorable performances. It was nominated for 5 Oscars and managed to nab 2 for both the visual effects and cinematography. This movie is packed with everything that makes a movie special, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I first saw it. Dr. Sleep had a huge mountain to climb in order to achieve success. The original also received mixed reactions upon release, but an extra thing to add on top of that is that the original author, Stephen King, has publicly gone on to openly criticize the movie and discuss his disliking of it. Now that this movie too was based on a sequel novel written by King once again, the movie not only had to pay tribute to Kubrick's original work, but also faithfully adapt King's novel and try and please him as well, while director Mike Flanagan was also trying to maintain a sense of his own creativity and artistic vision. Thankfully, they succeeded and arguably surpassed expectations. The film respectfully paid its tribute to the original flick, while also getting the stamp of approval from King, and still managed to maintain Flanagan's own vision, a director who also deserves a lot more praise for his work in the genre, as he is a master at what he does. The movie goes bigger than the original, I would say, by expanding its lore, and it makes some very daring choices, with some extremely disturbing imagery and some twists that I truly did not see coming, while also leaving plenty of room for some very touching and down-to-earth character moments. In the end, this was extraordinarily close. Both of these movies managed to do what I believe they set out to do. And I believe that both of these directors gave their all, and I think it's both of their best works. But I believe that Blade Runner 2049 had a bolder vision and more unique visuals, and overall just had a bigger impact on audiences and pop culture alike. I love these two movies, but I think when it comes down to it, if we jump 30 to 40 years down the road, Blade Runner 2049 is going to be seen the way that the original is now. And while I think that Dr. Sleep will be remembered fondly, I'm just not sure that it has the legs to stand the test of time despite how truly great and worth watching it is. Therefore, the fifth and final round and the crown is going to go to Blade Runner 2049. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments section if you agree or disagree with me, and feel free to suggest what you would like to see for the next Cinema Showdown. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, and if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon, that way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.